All right, so last week I mentioned we split episode 117 into a two-part series. So here's part 2 of episode 117 featuring Gilbert Rodriguez. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us. This is a very special episode and series for us, so we want to capture it in a 2-episode series just because there's so much said. I don't want you guys to miss a gem. With that being said, here goes part 2 of episode 117 featuring Gilbert Rodriguez. All right, cool. So if you're just tuning in, we are talking about do these 30 things if you want to be unstoppable. All right, number 15, always work on your mental strength. The better you can be under pressure, the further you'll go than anyone else because they'll crumble under pressure. I think this also ties in with the learning, expanding yourself education-wise, because if you open your eyes and your mind to different concepts and ideas, I think your mental strength also builds. But I do understand why they separated these two, because there's something about mental pressure. Mental pressure is like with the focus, discipline, all these things where it's like when you're on what Napoleon Hill calls the beam, which is like being in the zone. Have you, I know you guys have, ever experienced the zone? You don't know what time it is, you don't know everything, you're just so enthralled with whatever it is that you're doing. Can you imagine that there's people out here in this world that can actually tap into that when they want? That's how strong mentally they are. It's just wild.
It's crazy.
Anyway, moving on. Number 16, confidence is your greatest asset. You've heard it before, running a marathon is far more mental than physical. A person's ability to run a marathon or do anything hard is more a reflection of their level of confidence than their actual ability. Your confidence determines 1, the size of challenges and goals you undertake. 2, how likely you will achieve those goals. And 3, how well you bounce back from failures. What do you guys think about confidence?
That kind of goes back to our conversation last week about being a champion. It's like how well you deal with like all that stuff.
Yeah, I just, in my mind, it's just it's a mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was telling the guys last week that I have this thing ingrained in James, and obviously it'll grow beyond the basics, but it's look good, feel good, do good. So if you look good, you'll feel good. If you feel good, you'll do good. If you do good, they'll pay good. But he has that already in his head, and right before we walk out of the house, he kind of like does like the old like 1-2, like checks himself. But it's outside. It's beyond that physical thing. It's not a what do you call it? Like a superficial thing that I'm trying to teach. Yeah. I'm teaching a much deeper thing. It's a confidence thing. And so when you go out there, you're like building this little mind to be mentally strong. There's kids on these little soccer fields or whatever to his team, they can't take it when a coach corrects them. They can't take it when a kid steals the ball from them. Literally meltdowns. Yeah. And and like we're talking about, like James just gets angry, he's like, and he goes back and runs in the back of the line. This one kid just says, "I'm completely terrible at this." I'm like, that kid heard that from somewhere, right? It's like, what are you saying when you're failing in front of him? Obviously, if someone says, I'm completely terrible at this, and he wasn't. He really wasn't. The kid stole a ball from him. That was it. It was part of the drill. And the kid did fine the whole practice. It was like that one thing, and, that was it. It was a complete mental breakdown.
And it seemed a lot of that, obviously, the way you're instilling that into James, it's environment too that goes with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Because obviously, like you said, like the kid heard that from somewhere. Obviously, his parents probably said it about themselves. So
well, yeah. I mean, just when
just regurgitating that
blurts out a profane word. I mean,
sure.
They didn't make this up, dude.
Yeah.
You're their manual. You're their life manual. But anyway, all right. 17. Surround yourself with people who remind you of the future, not the past. When you surround yourself with people who remind you of the past, you'll have a hard time progressing. This is why we get stuck in certain roles which we can't break free from. Surrounding yourself with people who you want to be like allows you a fresh slate. You're no longer defined by your past, only the future you are creating. we talk about this all the time. It's, that having that camaraderie, there's that group of people, your mastermind, whatever you want to call it, and being actually having a communication. In my mind, I can have, I'm my mastermind can be all these, smart, intelligent, rich people. But if I actually don't communicate with them, they don't even know I'm in their circle, right? Mm-hmm. So one part of actually having that circle is communicating and on a what do you call that? Like a frequent basis. That's where growth comes, because once someone makes a move, like people will follow. I mean, just in a very like basic example, you literally made a move from PA to North Carolina, and your parents followed and your brother followed, right? Just think about like that. Just in other aspects of life, in business, right? You are who you hang around with. Just think about it. Like, somebody got a jet ski, that person who's around them, one of those 5 people would end up getting a jet ski, right?
Very true.
Somebody's into cars, into like compact cars. Somebody gets a Honda Prelude. Someone gets an Acura Integra. It's like, dude, there's something to this. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you are who you hang around with, and you don't want to be. They always say you don't want to be the smartest person in the group, or you just need to expand your circle. That's okay to be it once or twice, and you realize it. Now you outgrew that circle, so it's time to move up. 18, let things go, but never forget. One of my biggest pet peeves is when someone says, "Oh, I forgive and I forget." It's like, dude, that's not humanly possible. Yeah. Unless you got struck over the head with a baseball bat and you literally forgot, your memory, you got shot that, to
amnesia.
Yeah. You always will remember. It's like one of those things where they always say, like, get a pencil and write your name really hard on it and then erase it. Yeah, okay, so that's me forgiving you. I forgive you, pencil, right? But when I erase it, what's in the paper? It's still the indent. You still see my name. It's still there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, let things go and never forget. Being unstoppable requires carrying no unnecessary mental or emotional baggage. Consequently, you'll need immediately and completely forgive anyone who has wronged you. This is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's just a negative emotion, a negative thing. You're putting that kind of thing out there. You just need to move on. I don't know. I think that's pretty straightforward. Number 19, have clear goals. According to loads of psychology research, the most motivating goals are, that is a one technical way to say it. You know what I mean? According to loads of psychology research, the most motivating goals are clearly defined and time bound. We're at the Rotated Views podcast. We talk about goal setting, mental attitudes, all this stuff all the time. So, we agree with number 19. Number 20, respond immediately rather than analyzing or stalling. Anticipation of an event is always more extreme than the event itself, both for positive and negative events. Just do it. I don't know. It's kind of what you guys were talking about before. Is like when you think about something so much, there's one thing to come up with a plan, and then there's another thing to come up with a plan and then erase it and then come up with something else, then erase it, or, involve too many people, too many moving parts. And what happens, the more complicated this plan of yours becomes, the less likely you're going to take action on it.
You make it bigger than what it is.
Well, I think that also becomes with fear. I actually think that's a fear thing, because it almost defines what fear is. Fear is just like placing thought on something that could potentially happen that has not yet happened.
Sure.
Right? And your fear of it. I'm scared to mess up. Like, I don't want to go out there and score no points. That's embarrassing. You're playing this in your head and did that happen? No, that's not even the reality. All right, cool. 21. Choose simplicity over complication. It's easy to be complicated. Most of research and jargon in academia and business is overcomplicated. Cutting to the core and hitting the truth is hard because it's simple. As Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Brevity. I always talk about brevity. I cannot stand books that come out that are 1,400 pages on, how to swing the baseball bat properly. It's like, sure. What are you saying here? And I can guarantee I know what you're saying. Something that you said on page 1 through 50, you're saying all the same stuff, all just in different ways. You're just repeating yourself in a different way. That's trash. Brevity. Choose simplicity over complication. Number 22, never be jealous or envious of someone else's accomplishments. Being unstoppable means you genuinely want what's best for everyone, even those you would consider your competition. Jealousy and envy are the ego, which operates out of fear. So this all kind of ties in together. I think that's pretty straightforward. But I mean, do we get like this still? Are we jealous and envious of someone else's accomplishments?
No, but I don't want my competition to do well. I'll tell you that right now. Right. Not me specifically. The hell with that. I'll watch you go down the drain. I'm good with it. More market for me. Intended.
What's that?
But yeah, no pun intended. Yes.
But I'm gonna disagree with that. I don't necessarily look at the competition and say to myself, oh, they got to this point now. It stifles your mentality, and now you're paying attention. You're basically imprisoning your mind based on someone else's accomplishments, and to me, that's terrible.
Well, and you're putting energy towards something that's not going to get you any result or anything good out of it.
Exactly, it's just going to get you sick.
All right, I think they did this on purpose, but number 23, I think, is a whatever. I don't know what you call it, like a bow to Michael Jordan, but it says take the shot every time. If I fail more than you, I win, Seth Godin says. You miss every shot you don't take. Hey, it's like a Wayne Gretzky quote, isn't it? And most people don't want to take the shot. Fear of failure paralyzes them. The only way you can become unstoppable is to stop thinking about it. Just take the shot. Yeah, I mean, that goes back to action, right? Just taking action, taking the shot. How many times have we watched a basketball game, though, and how frustrated? It could be like non-professional. It could be like your kids or whatever. And that person who has the ability to make this shot is wide open and dishes it. And you're just staring. It's like, dude, that was like your chance. And I feel like, oh my gosh, dude, do I do that in life? You know what I mean? You start like thinking like, dude, I hope I don't look like, because that person looked like a knucklehead, right? You do all this preparation. You're at the 6 a.m. practices. You're working out in the gym. You're eating healthy. You're talking about it. You're game playing. You're doing all this stuff. And when your opportunity, the ball literally comes right into your hands, and you take that shot that you've been practicing day in and day out, and you know you could drain that thing, and you dish it out of fear. Damn, I hope I don't really do that in real life. That's so bad.
Yeah. I think what's important is, and I've told many people this, it's not that I'm the smartest person in the room or I have such a business mind that I created a business and it's successful and all that. It's not about that. It really is about your ability to keep trying over and over and over again. Because I'd rather have someone who continues to try, that is humble enough to continue to learn and try than to have that person in your corner that's extremely smart but passes the ball at the end. Or as you say, dishes it, because at that point, that fear, that person will never get anywhere. They can have it all upstairs, but if they don't try and they don't get out there, I'd rather take the person that just says, all right, I'm going to make it next time. I'm going to make it next time. I'm going to make it next time. That's important. It's extremely important.
Because they're going to do it.
Exactly.
So if you think about it, nobody really remembers the failures, right? When you finally succeed. And you can't succeed if you don't continue to try. You can't go back. How many businesses have people run where they're just complete, they've gone bankrupt and blah, blah, blah. But they hit that one home run, and nobody remembers those other failures. They see you as a success all of a sudden. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just, you can only do that by continuing to try and attempt or what have you.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 24. Don't get caught up in the results of your success. Always remain focused on what got you those results, the work. When you start doing noteworthy stuff, there are benefits that can come. There are benefits that can become distractions. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. The work. Number 25, think and act 10 times. Most people, even those you deem to be world class, are not operating at 10x. In truth, you could surpass anyone if you radically stretch your thinking and your belief system. Going 10x changes everything. As Dan Sullivan said, 10x thinking automatically takes you outside the box of your present obstacles and limitation. It pulls you out of the problems most people are dealing with and opens you to the entirety new field of possibilities. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dan Sullivan or Grant Cardone read each other's books, but Grant Cardone also has a book literally called 10x. And it talks about doing 10 times. You're actually capable of doing what you're doing now 10 times. And that says a lot. Think about this when, let's just say you're clocking in for 8 hours a day and you're just kind of like going through your day. You're working hard. It is what it is. But how in the world, when you have a half day, like those 4 hours, you still get the same amount of work done, or you squeeze it out because you know you're going on vacation. You're like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that's double right there, right? Yeah. And this guy's talking about you can 10x your efforts. Sure. That's wild.
That is.
All right. Number 26, set goals that far exceed your current capabilities. If your goals are logical, they won't force you to create luck. Being unstoppable means your goals challenge you to become someone more than you currently are. As Jim Rohn, rest his soul, said, don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful.
Yeah. It is. One of my, everyone knows that I'm a believer. One of my prayers is asking God for more awareness. And that kind of, ties in with that. It's just make me more aware of, okay, so if you're going through something, let's just say you and your girl are arguing or whatever, make me, send awareness or allow me to become more aware of how she's feeling, or, so I can put my shoes in, or my feet in her shoes and have a better understanding. You're asking for understanding, awareness, this whole same prayer. I think if you're in that, that realm, if you can think like that, number one, obviously that's like a mature thing to do, but the richest man in the world, King Solomon, that was his, he literally had all the money, his, temple made of gold, right? This wildly wealthy individual, his prayer was for asking God for understanding and awareness. So I always thought that was captivating to me. I'm like, wow, the richest man. Meanwhile, people are praying for money.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
But make me aware on how to make the money. Yeah. Make me understand how that person is rich. Not just send me a windfall of money like hitting the lottery. I'm saying, how can I do this continue? Teach me how to fish. Yeah. All right, number 27. Make time for recovery and rejuvenation. Your ability to work at high level is like a fitness. If you never take a break between sets, you won't be able to build strength, stamina, and endurance. However, not all rest produce recovery. Certain things are more soothing than others. Okay, I think that's straightforward. Number 28, start before you're ready. Wow, that's a good one. I want to read this whole thing. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now, Chinese proverb. Most people wait. They believe they can start after they have enough time, money, connections, and credentials. They wait until they feel, quote, secure. Not people who are unstoppable. Unstoppable people started last year. They started 5 years ago before they even knew what they were doing. But number 28, start before you're ready. That's huge.
I was going back to it's never the perfect time to do anything.
Never.
It's like having a baby.
Yeah.
People talk about having a baby and they're like, oh, I'm not ready. Well, we're going to get ready once we get this, once we get that. But before you know it, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So with a business, it's pretty much the same thing. And in fact, a lot of people relate to their business as, this is my baby.
Right.
So when it comes to that, you just jump in a responsible way, obviously. You're not going to just irresponsibly start a business, but at the end of the day, you're never going to feel like you have everything ready to go to start a business, because it's a risk.
Yeah.
With risk, there's precaution.
Right.
If there's no precaution, you need to check yourself because if you're not nervous about it, you don't really care that much about it.
Right. I agree. Yeah, it's just lining those ducks in a row. Like, yeah, listen, there's planning, that's great and that's fantastic, but it goes back to the overindulgence of these kinds of things that it's that analysis paralysis. That whole thing kicks in. I remember my one buddy was like, I'm going to do this at 25. I'm going to wait till I get a house. I'm going to wait till, this guy's 45 years old and not married and doesn't have kids. And that's all he wants. Well, that's all he says he wants. But he's putting everything else before that, right? So what's the priority? Obviously, not what you're saying you want because you would have had it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, just go for it. Just do it.
Go get it, son.
Number 29, if you need permission, you probably shouldn't do it. A mentor of mine is a highly successful real estate investor. Throughout his career, he had hundreds of people ask him if they should go into real estate. He tells every one of them the same thing, that they shouldn't do it. In fact, he actually tries talking most of them out of it, and in most cases he succeeds. Why would he do that, you ask? Those who are going to succeed will do it regardless of what I say. Yeah.
Very true.
I love hearing that stuff.
That's 100% true.
Yep.
I think it goes really down to you look at your own life story and you realize all the things that you had to go through. And Miguel can probably touch on this as well. You can't be prepared for everything that you face when opening up a business or even running a business.
Yeah.
So when someone I use an example. If someone approaches me and they're like, "Hey, I'm getting ready to start a plumbing business, or I'm getting ready to go into commercial real estate, or whichever one," I find myself trying to talk them out of it. Because I say, okay, they ask me about my own personal experience, and I tell them, well, I was when I first started, I was up till 2:00 in the morning doing estimates, and to get up at 6 to actually do the work, to manage people, to do it all over again. I had about probably 3 to 4 hours of sleep every night, however long.
Right.
I don't expect for other people to have that same work ethic that I had.
Yeah.
Right.
They might have it, but I feel responsibility to let them know, if you're going to start this, let me try to talk you out of it, because exactly what you just said. And now it kind of, it all comes full circle when you said that, but it's so true. You kind of tell people, hey, look, this is what it takes. If you think you can do it, man, good luck with it. But
Right.
but that person's going to do it regardless if they want to do it. And, I'm sure Miguel has got the same experience.
No, but it is true. It is like same thing. People ask how it is to run a business and how do you get started. I know when I started, there was people that I expected that I went to and expect to help me, and they were like, "Oh yeah, just go see this person or go Google that stuff." And they're the obvious things. I'm like, what the heck? So that could have discouraged me of not opening up a business. I still did it anyway because it was something I wanted to do, and obviously I had a decent opportunity to do it anyway, so I actually did it. But if some people were to ask me, I kind of would redirect them in a different way. I wouldn't say, yeah, especially if it's someone that I know, obviously they would be in a local area, which would be competition. I don't have competition, but just redirect them in a whole different way.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever try to convince someone not to do something if they really want to do it. But I think having that conversation is the start, and then that person needs to make the decision on their own.
Just give them the honestly the breakdown of the pros and cons.
Sure.
This is what can happen, but then this is how it can fail too.
Right.
Just giving your honest experience of how you dealt with it and see how they react to that.
But you always leave them with hope. You don't crush them.
That's what I was going to say. I don't
crush
like
a guy's
this guy's
dream,
approach. And I'm like, all right.
This is terrible, but you can do it.
No, but it's because you
knows
go
that
through so much. You go through so much, but at the end of the day, but no, at the end of the conversation, you leave them with hope and say, look, it is possible.
Yeah.
Right. And then these people are going to this guy's seminar or whatever, paying probably hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, for this guy to shoot something down. But I think the intention is, listen, don't do this if your heart's not in it.
Yeah.
But I need to encourage you to still follow your dreams if you genuinely feel like, versus the person who goes there and is like, you think I should do this? And you're like, no, absolutely not. He's like, man, I don't care about this dude. I'm still doing this anyway. You can't stop that person. You're never going to stop that headstrong go-getter. You never will. They're unstoppable.
Yeah, it depends on their intentions too. If they're doing it just for the money, but they're not passionate about it, then that's all wrong.
Yeah.
If they're passionate about it and expect to make money off of it, then yeah. But it doesn't make sense if it depends on their intentions of doing the business or whatever it is.
Because they're wavering anyway. So they're waiting for an affirmation or a denial saying, oh, you can't do this anyway. So So either way, they're going to go in whatever direction you tell them.
Right.
So if your motivation, Gilbert, was strictly off money when you started the business, would you stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning and take 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep?
Well, I mean, it to me, it was really never about the money as it was the freedom. You know, it was freedom. It wasn't necessarily money. It was being able to provide for my family, for my son is one thing, right? I mean, you do have a monetary motivation. I mean, let's be real. You know, that money doesn't bring happiness. It helps, though.
Yeah.
You know, but when it came to self motivation, it was more freedom than anything. Being able to provide services that I was passionate about since I was 17. That's what it was really about.
You know, going back to money, it's not that the drive, well, I can't speak for everybody. It's not that the drive is for the money. It's what money can do.
Right.
Right. And it goes back to where you're saying that, you know, like the freedom and all that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, we all have different motivators, but that's obviously a big one. And the last one, folks, we've made it. 30. Don't make exceptions. Zig Ziglar used to tell a story of traveling one day and not getting in bed until 4 a.m. An hour and a half later, 5:30, his alarm went off. He said, every fiber of my being was telling me to stay in bed, but he had made his commitment, so he got up anyway. Admittedly, he had a horrible day and wasn't productive at all. Yet he says that decision changed his life, as he explains. Had I bowed to my human, physical, emotional, and mental desire to sleep in, I would have made that exception. A week later, I might have made an exception if I only got 4 hours of sleep. A week later, maybe I only got 7 hours of sleep. The exception so many times becomes the rule. Had I slept in, I would have faced that danger. Watch those exceptions. Yeah, when you're unstoppable, you will make sure to get what you want. Everything you need to know is already within you. All you need to do is trust yourself and act. The question is, are you unstoppable? Yeah, don't make exceptions. That is funny. That's tough, especially if you are a person who gets up super early to do something. That is definitely tough. That is not an easy thing. Because it's true. Then all of a sudden that grows into something else. Like, you know what, Tuesday, you know what, I'll start next week. Or, you know, and it gets to this thing to a point where you can't even control it.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you guys think about this? Do these 30 things if you want to be unstoppable by success.com. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was one of the best we had in a while.
Solid.
Yeah. And I actually got 30 more we can get ready to come, do.
All right. Let's,
30 more
number
points.
one.
Line it up.
All right. So I have 2 questions for you guys and we're done. Number 1, what does unstoppable mean to you?
I think it's a mindset, honestly.
Yeah.
Being unstoppable, it's a mindset. It's what you do every single morning when you wake up, making the best of what you have in front of you, making goals, and actually doing it. Unstoppable is not something that you think you're unstoppable, but you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Being able to work and have a strong work ethic when no one's watching, and having that integrity, so when you turn around, you've accomplished things. That to me is being unstoppable. Actually having something tangible to back up what you're saying you're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's kind of like when they get knocked down 9 times, get up 10. That's just a hurdle. That's just a life hurdle, right? That's not it's not put there to stop you, right? It's there to challenge you and to actually question you. What are you truly made of? How bad do you really want it? Kind of thing. And if you're an unstoppable person, as Gilbert was saying, that's a mentality. And you've developed that and you build that. And you do that through the education. You do that through association. You do that through taking action. You do all this stuff. It's stretching you. But yeah, I mean, I think it's true. Being unstoppable is a mentality. And so the second part of my question is, how do we teach our kids to become, and how are you teaching your kid to be an unstoppable human being in life? Even, I don't care how old they are.
You just tell them to keep trying. Like I tell Ava, keep trying. Like you're never, even if you fail, you just try it again and keep going. You're gonna obviously surpass it. So at that point, you'll be at one point unstoppable on anything that comes your way, because you're not gonna like give in and give up. You're just gonna keep going and tackling everything that comes your way.
Right.
By example, too. The recent example I used with Jaden was I had to take a recertification test for one of my credentials to do some specific pipe work. And I went to take the test and forgot all my books to take the test.
Wow.
And it was I believe it was a 2-hour test. It wasn't a big test. It was about a 2-hour test. I come back and Jaden asked me, "Hey, Dad, how'd you do on the test?" I said, "I failed miserably." And he goes, "Really? Why?" I said, "Well, I wasn't prepared. I completely forgot my books." And so these are the things that I talked to him about when trying to prepare him to have that unstoppable mentality. It's, look, I fail. I showed him, look, I literally just failed. 2 weeks later, I go back with my books and I pass with a 98%. I come back and he's like, "How'd you do this time?" I'm like, "Well, I got a 98%. He goes, "You were prepared."
Yeah.
So that right there, it shows him that, you know what, it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
But Dad got back up and went back to take the test again.
Yeah.
So I think by example is huge.
Yeah,
you know, and
for sure.
And being transparent with your kids so they can see that you do fail yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about how many times you fail and all that kind of stuff. It's really like, you know what, you got back and you went and did it. And to me, that's because, in my opinion, kids are they're very visual learners. It's not just about, you know, hey, look, read this storybook. It's more like, oh, you know what, my dad just went through this. When he's going to school and he fails something, he knows that it's going to be okay as long as he keeps trying and doesn't dish it off.
Right. I like it. Perfect. I think you nailed it. There it is, folks. Unstoppable. We like to close things out with quotes. The first quote is by Kirk Cameron. God steps into the suffering with us. He takes it on himself. He walks through it with us, and he uses it to create something in you that is unstoppable. And the second one is by Caterina Fake. It's fairly easy to know when you've succeeded, because when you're kind of hanging on for dear life, it's such an unstoppable juggernaut. You're trying to stay on with your head above the water because things are moving so fast. All right, so there you have it, folks. Unstoppable. In this episode, the crew welcomes back special guest, investor, and entrepreneur Gilbert Rodriguez. The crew talks about what it takes to be unstoppable. We cover topics that range from pressure, having an unstoppable mentality, failure, confidence, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Caterina Fake and Kirk Cameron. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.